Ladies and gentlemen, I've sold my Hummer. I think we can all agree this is a sad day for everyone, except the good people of southeastern Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey. But before it's gone from our hearts and minds, I've decided to do one last video summing up what it was like to own a Hummer for a year. The number one thing people asked me about when I told them that I had a Hummer was its size. Actually, the number one thing people asked me was, what the hell is wrong with you? But size came up later. Here's the deal. The Hummer is enormous. I can't believe people actually drive this thing through cities like Miami or LA, driving around and expecting everyone to look at them like they're cool. They're not cool. It's like driving around in a Ryder truck. Of course, that didn't stop me from enjoying it. I took it to Manhattan. I drove it around Philadelphia. I took it on some tight off-road trails. I drove it into parking garages. And every time I was a little bit worried that I was going to run over some old lady over on the passenger side in the next time zone. Gas mileage also came up a lot. Although I never really measured precisely the Hummer's city fuel economy, I can confidently say that there were tanks where we didn't break 10 miles per gallon. Later on, I decided to hypermile the Hummer to see what kind of gas mileage it could get on the highway with a few aerodynamic modifications. The result was not so great. And that means all our hypermiling got us to 11.5 miles per gallon. For years, I looked at Hummers on the street and wondered what it would be like to drive one. Now I look at Hummers on the street and wonder why anyone would want to drive one. We've already covered the main problem, which is size. But it isn't just that. The Hummer is slow. That trip to New York took twice as long as it normally would in a regular car. And I found out just how slow it really is when I took it to a drag strip and ran a quarter mile.
Thank you very much. 21608, ladies and gentlemen. That is the time of a victor.
Handling isn't exactly a joy either. Although the Hummer doesn't have much body roll, it suffers from slow steering and a general lack of knowledge about the vehicle's whereabouts during any moment of your turning experience, as I discovered on the racetrack. It's also loud, and I mean really loud. There's no point when you're driving the Hummer where you get a break from driving the Hummer. Excellent.
Going. Keep going.
Well, I spent several $1,000s in the Hummer endeavor. Not only did I have to pay sales tax and register the Hummer, but I also performed extensive maintenance work when I bought it in order to ensure that it would stay reliable, which it didn't. Owning a Hummer is not cheap. In fact, mine was probably the cheapest Hummer you could possibly own, powered by a good old Chevy 350 and old enough to avoid all the latest electronic crap. And yet I still lost money to depreciation and more to service costs. Essentially, if you go into Hummer ownership thinking it will be like maintaining any old truck, the guy at the Hummer shop will laugh at you while he stands there in his Gucci loafers. The Hummer was ultimately responsible for dozens of Jalopnik columns and more than a dozen YouTube videos where I did everything from crush a PT Cruiser with it to take it on the racetrack. And unlike the Skyline videos where people who don't get it ask why am I posting about the Skyline so much, nobody ever really complained about the Hummer. Everybody wanted to know what it was like to own a vehicle they had wondered about for the last 20 years, including me. As much as I complained about the gas mileage and the cost and the noise and the size, I have to admit I was always a little excited when it came time to go fire up the Hummer. And I was always a little more excited to post a video or write a column about my ridiculous yellow Hummer than my old silver Nissan.